Welcome to the Nutrigenomic Nation podcast with Brian Highfield, certified nutritionist, author, speaker, and founder of multiple successful companies in the health world. Brian is known for educating healthcare professionals and others on improving their health and their life through breakthroughs in nutrition, technology, and biochemistry. On the podcast, Brian interviews thought leaders in the world of nutrition and natural health. He and his guests share the secrets of a whole life natural approach to health and the life-altering results you can get by making easy changes to your diet and daily routine.
All right, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Today we got a special guest. We have Alisa Bloom. So Alisa has been a dietitian and health and wellness coach for over 25 years. And some people call her the authority of nutrition change made simple because she guides individuals to remove themselves as obstacles to their success. So welcome to the program, Alisa.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so we met a short time ago. And I'm really curious because I think you have an interesting story, but what really drove you into this field and what, tell us a little bit about your background as well.
But what drove me to nutrition? Well, I always say that I come from the ancillary family. My father was a pharmacist. My brothers were podiatrists. So we were always and I was always fascinated with what things go into the body and how they function. And coupled with the fact that myself and family members really were always kind of sensitive. We were those people who, you know what, that doesn't quite fit me or something am I different? And there it began. And the passion for nutrition came shortly. I was fortunate, right? Early in my schooling, and I've been with nutrition ever since.
Wow. So yeah. So and you've got a personal story as well, right? With your own health and your own health journey.
I do. Well, I mentioned the sensitivities earlier, and it would become where, okay, so a provider's giving you a medication for something benign. And it's like, really, I couldn't sleep, or my heart was palpitating, or I would get swollen, or just all of these things. And then as time went on, it became, well, of course, I'm thankful I evaded major diagnoses, but I wasn't feeling well. Now, is this age? It can't be, because at a certain point, yes, it's over 25 years later, but at a certain point, I was saying I wasn't that old, and and it just became what is the it that is going on here, and is there some sort of universal or root cause of what is going on, some central core, and that's what I sought to find out, and I ended up being able to do that.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your approach. So you've been coaching for a long time, but what's your approach to really dig into someone's needs and what's ailing them and find that root cause?
Well, a lot of my focus is, if I mentioned to you that some of the symptoms that I was describing. So, goodness, lethargy, weight resistance, inability to sleep, things like that. And it became, how do I narrow that down into one symptom? Because people come to me for varying stages of what they want to fix or help along. And it became that hunger aspect is if you're hungry and you overconsume, we deal with all of these symptoms. So a lot of times people come to me with more than one thing wrong, even if they want to just say, hey, I want to feel good and I want to learn how to do that forever. The basis of what I work with is genetic testing. It's a DNA test. It's a cheek swab, not a nasal swab for those of us who've gotten accustomed to COVID testing, but it is a cheek swab. And at the end of the day, those results take about a month to come back. And during that month, I work to help people reset their gut microbiome. Now, if that sounds too complicated, it's basically that we have a lot of gut bacteria, and that affects a lot of inflammation. Hint, hint, is the word that are all of these vague symptoms. So I work to help with that until the results come back. And guess what? People feel better because we're decreasing their inflammation. And then the DNA results tell me where that's coming from. And then we work from there solely on the DNA results. And why that's important is because if you follow someone else's nutrition advice or a certain diet, or I tell people that if you're going to try on that sweater that looked fabulous on your friend or partner, you better think twice before you buy it, because it may not work. So in getting that inflammation down first, or you try that diet of your friends or family, it's not sustainable usually because it's not addressing at the DNA level. And that's why it becomes usually temporary, or something wasn't quite right. I tried that years ago, but it didn't work for the long term.
So, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, because inflammation is such a huge deal. And what are some of the things that you recommend for people as far as their diet goes, to their natural, just the things to address the inflammation, and maybe some things to stay away from that really activate our inflammation?
That what they further ignite the flame, is that,
Yeah. And that fan the flames.
No kidding. So, well, one of the first things, a lot in my approach is, I say to people all the time, well, great, I can throw you in a corner with green beans and a rice cake, but what's going to happen after 3 weeks?
Yeah.
You'll feel okay, but what's going to happen the minute you walk out anywhere? So I really get a handle on where you are right now. And any change that if you look at wellness on a spectrum, any change, even small, that you can stay consistent at and stay with is a big deal. So when I start with that, usually one of the first things I'm looking at is how processed is someone's diet. Because these additives, fillers, preservatives, all these things not only affect inflammation, they affect your brain. So the mood isn't that great. The mood is not as well as happy as it could be if there's a lot of inflammation going on. And one of the first things that we try, and anyone can try this, is unprocessed 1 meal a day. Let's see what's going on. Can you have 1 meal a day that's not in a box? And if it is in a box, can that box only contain 1 ingredient, or maximum 2, depending on what it is? And from there we go. How's your hydration? Are you getting enough water? These are some of the basics. And for those who may want to know, just take your body weight in pounds and divide it in half. And that's how many ounces. A minimum is a ballpark, even though it's general. Are you getting that a day? So with unprocessing the diet, hydrating yourself, then I start to add in things that will help with inflammation, whether that's omega-3s, whether that's people's magnesium status, because that helps just calm the nerves down and make people, they generally feel better. Not an advocate for anyone to take supplements with any of those without someone looking at that for you, because again, that has to be personalized. But I'd say those are really the first line of places to start. Then you move to movement, then you move to a lot of times I will take into consideration, what is your lifestyle? I've had people who come to me and say, I eat out 3 days a week. You can't help me. Yes, I can, because we have to figure out how to do this. So I work with people, menus of their favorite restaurants, teach them language, how to order without being obnoxious or feeling that they're asking for too much, or, just that softer language. Not only if you go out to eat, but what's the language like in the house? How do we create that space for someone who wants to learn how to get well and stay well?
Yeah, and I really like your approach, because I think most people's fears when they come to someone like you, or they talk to a dietitian, that they're going to tell them, like what you said, we're going to prescribe some rice cakes and some beans and put you in the corner, and they're really fearful of this drastic change in their diet. And it sounds like you really work with them as far as what their palate is, what their lifestyle is, and really progress them towards health and taking more baby steps.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, anybody can try something for a certain period of time, but it's not going to get you the results that you want. It has to be consistent. And generally, when people work with me, you can have that rear view mirror look back. Wow, I did make a lot of change, but it wasn't all at once. And it wasn't somebody's 2-item change is another person's 15 items. So you can't gauge it. It has to be something slow, but it's the consistency. Can't even hammer that enough.
So go back and talk more about the genetic testing, because that's really interesting. So you do a swab test, you get those results, and what do those results look like? What do they tell you?
Huh, what they tell me a lot. I tell people I can tell you as much biochemistry or not as you want. And one of the things that I enjoy doing is translating the science to just two normal terms that people can
Mhm.
understand. The test that I use is from a company called 3x4. I make no money from that test. So there's no kind of relationship that way. I want to disclose that. But it'll generate a report for you that's based on, I think, about 36 pathways in the body that are all telling you, not no one gene is a diagnosis. That's actually what is shown to you in the report is part of your genetic code, which we call a SNP, as is short for SNP. That's I won't go there with the science, but and we're essentially looking at spelling words and if there are any spelling mistakes. So no one spelling mistake is going to say, oh goodness, that's not a diagnosis, but we're using the information to tell you how you can express some of the genes that we want to kind of push along a little bit and how we can quiet the activity of others that are getting in the way of our health. And you can get into this as long as you want. I can give you an example of my own that happened to me. If you would have to this day, if you give me a cup of coffee or iced tea or anything caffeinated in the latter half of the day or the evening, I will be up. And part of what a test that I had done before in my practice looked at types of food sensitivities, which are still wonderful tools that you could use to can give some insight. Of course, mine said I was sensitive to caffeine. But by the time I got into genomics and understanding my own DNA, I realized that the reason I can't handle caffeine very well is not because of the caffeine itself. In fact, my results said that I metabolize caffeine just fine. It's the fact that caffeine's a toxin. And I have a lot of genes, and some of them aren't even there, that need some help to detoxify. So that's the reason that I have trouble metabolizing caffeine. Once you get to that level, you can already see how, well, oh, now I support my lifestyle to support my faulty detoxification pathway, or, we need some help there. And that's changed my life.
And there's been a lot of stuff in the news, and people being concerned if they see that they have the MTHFR gene and or some variant of that. Do clients bring that up in this genetic testing, and is that a curiosity, or does that mean anything for people?
All the time, to all of the above.
Yeah.
Is, well, what is MTHFR? I mean, I can explain that right now. Is that would be under what is called the methylation pathway, where it can show you, you may have difficulty in converting things to their active form, notably folic acid. So that's the big one. But methylation is involved, or how to convert things to their active form in the body is involved in a lot of processes that are umbrellaed under methylation. One of the challenges is that it's definitely something that can be worked with lifestyle. That's something that is very commonly part of what I help people with. The challenge is when people who don't understand or don't work with a provider to interpret these tests is they may supplement, with something like methylfolate, which is a folate that's in its active form. Well, that's fabulous, but all B vitamins actually work in a wonderfully orchestrated group together. And when let's say there's 5 or 6, and I'm being arbitrary, anybody out there, and we choose one, and we've upset the apple cart for the balance or the ratio of the others. And then people don't feel well. So they're wondering, well, what happened? You said I needed help converting to active folate, so I took more folate. It goes along with, I'll use another analogy, where there are supplements out there who say that, okay, so we have this red pepper, this gorgeous red pepper, and they've taken 500 of these phytochemicals or non-nutritive substances that would be in a red pepper, and they've put it in a pill, and they could give it to you. It's fabulous. There's that will help you in some ways, but who's to say that gorgeous red pepper that you could eat doesn't give you 5 million? as opposed to that 500. And that's a concept of when you go back to the methylation and the MTHFR, we have to understand how to nourish the body food first. And sometimes the supplements that we choose have to be in concert in the environment that they naturally work in. And sometimes people are hesitant, do I need supplements? Sometimes when we get to a certain age, we need to do a little bit more than trickling on the faucet to avoid a freeze of the pipes, and we need to open up the fire hose. And so a lot of times supplements can help here.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about maybe a success story, but how do you move someone, when they comes to you with a lot of different systems, you work with them, you put a plan in place. And so how do you get them to that endpoint or that desired state that they want to be in?
Well, I'm thinking of one client in particular where, yes, she ate out every day, 3 times a week. Candidly had elimination issues where it was, but it was very slow. Let's just leave it at that. And wasn't feeling well, mood, but yet could maybe in her mind pinpoint to all of other lifestyle conditions, right? You wake up in the middle of the night, and if you're in a bad mood, there's plenty of things that can be put in to fill the blank of why. And we slowly started with, let's try one unprocessed meal. I started with hydration with her. I did, and all of these things, they weren't, my approach isn't, here are the first 6 things, go home and do them. It doesn't work like that. So she changed one meal at a time. Maybe the first week tried a meal, has menu and recipe support. Then we tried hydration, incorporate that. I did look at her magnesium. And as, how do you tell someone is improving? And it can be so subtle. It's, I've been sleeping the past 3 nights. Okay. Do you see how that's a change from before? Or I'm eliminating. Now, she didn't use that word, but yeah. I will use that for her. And some things are moving the way that they're supposed to, and the mood is lifted. Tasks aren't as hard. So weight loss, which was one of the reasons that she came to me. Well, sure, that happened, but it becomes a byproduct of feeling better. Because at the end of the day, let's say that you want to lose weight. If you can feel better, you can walk out of your door with far more confidence and the weight will fall off, but not if you sit and stare at a scale and don't do any of the behaviors.
Absolutely. Well, we're almost out of time, but how can our listeners find out more about you, get in touch with you, Alisa?
Oh, thank you. My business is Live Your Best 365. So either someone can head over directly to my website, liveyourbest365.com. You can find information there. You can schedule a complimentary call with me, or I am on social media, primarily Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn at Live Your Best 365.
Awesome. Good stuff. And just in our short conversation today, I mean, it really shows through your 25 years of experience of helping people. So I highly recommend Alisa, if you're looking for some help with your health and wellness, she can coach you with that, being a dietitian and doing the genetic testing, which I just find fascinating. But thank you so much, Alisa, for being on the program today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.